Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs, a show that covers the best action films of all time. I'm your host, Shanny B. You can find me on all the socials at Shanny B Movies.
And I'm your host, Cisco, aka Misfit Minded. You can find me on Twitter at Rampage_Misfit, and my movie page is at Misfit_Minded on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Today, it's all about Jake Gyllenhaal. First,
Yes.
we're going to talk, we'll talk Guy Ritchie's new movie, The Covenant,
hmm
then Jarhead. But yeah, let's definitely start with The Covenant. Tell me what you thought.
Um, mixed feelings.
Okay.
Mixed feeling. Do you want to say?
Oops, it froze for a second. Okay, ask me that question again, and I will. No, I'll just say what it is.
I'll just say, do you want to see what it's about first, so in case people
Yes,
haven't seen it?
jumped the gun. I got so excited.
It's okay.
Um, so, if you haven't seen it, it's about a soldier who, after being rescued by his interpreter during an ambush, returns to the war zone to help the interpreter and his family escape to America. So,
Yes.
now tell me what you think.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was very strange for Guy Ritchie to do a movie like this, honestly.
Yeah,
I couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, even as I was watching it, I just was like, I don't understand. Like, this is a British guy trying to make an American, like, macho military movie. Like, who's
yeah.
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't know. He's just making some weird choices lately, like even like the Aladdin live action remake, like which I know we've all forgotten at this point, but I had to bring it up again.
I mean, low key, I ride for that Aladdin movie because it's so shocking what he did. Him applying his isms to that story is so random. And I guess maybe I was hoping for something like that here, but I'm with you. I don't know why he wanted to do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of I guess that would be like some of the better parts of the movie is like him bringing like his isms, like you say, like to it. Like there were some cool shots, like especially like at the beginning, and then there's like a whole extended like uh I guess not to spoil it, but there's a whole like incapacitated Jake Gyllenhaal,
Like,
section of the movie
yeah,
where he's
peace.
just like high off of opium the entire time.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty trippy. Like, so there's some stylish like flourishes there, but um yeah, it's just like this weird like divide where if the content or some of the characters are British in a Guy Ritchie movie, I know it's probably gonna be good. And then if it's not, I'm usually like, this is I don't it's not up to par
It
for
could go
whatever
either
reason.
way. Yeah, it
Yeah.
could go either way. We could get super lucky or we probably won't. And I guess I feel right in the middle too. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what to really make of the choice to do it, but I agree like the best parts of it are when it feels like, "Oh, he knows how to do things like this."
Yeah.
The tension is there when it needs to be, but to your point about those interesting pieces of montage that are throughout,
Yeah.
that's where I get lost.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it was just like I was just like, okay, I don't like I was trying to wrap my head around it. I guess more like the action, you know what I mean? Like the action is always clear, you know
Yeah.
what's happening, like where everybody is and stuff like that. And it's like it almost felt like a video game at times. Like I liked having to stealthily take out enemies and stuff like that. There was like a
Yeah.
lot of like tense moments where that happened. So like
Mhm.
in terms of like filming those type of scenes, like in a way that just wasn't like Rambo. Like I even like someone even says that in the movie. I think like I might be getting it confused with Jarhead, but like yeah, like don't go in there like Rambo or something like that. But yeah, all the military stuff was just like super cliche. Like I just could not
R
like it was almost
Yeah.
parody like when it opened up and it was like this is Chow Chow, he likes food. This is Tomcat because he loves the girls. I was just like, God, like who wrote this?
Yeah, so cheesy. It felt yeah, I
Yeah.
guess, I'm not sure if it was based on anything. Maybe was it based on something? I guess I really should have done
I
my
don't think so.
research
Like, because
there.
it didn't say based on a true story, and then
Okay.
at the end they did show like like photos, but they were all different. So I was like, it's not based on
They made it
one.
up.
Yeah, they made it up straight up.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, it's true. It felt like a real paint by numbers vibe of like everything that is supposed to be in a war movie. He found a way to kind of squeeze in, but then he also chose a lot of random story devices to me, like countdowns of days and things that I wasn't sure
Oh
like
yeah.
why I needed to know all the time or be
The
present with the
lingo,
time.
the lingo that would, like,
Yeah.
pop up, like
Yeah,
yeah,
like
it
it
just
felt
took
like
you
a
out. It just takes you out
really
every time, yeah.
so disorganized, like, you know me, I don't like when there are 2 movies happening at one time unless it's
Oh, yeah.
done with
This was 2
precision.
movies.
Yeah, it really was, and I'm not sure why, but I feel like the dialogue was a little cheesy, and I have to
Mhm.
say, my man Jake, he was a little over the top for my taste a couple of times here.
Okay.
Which
I
I
can
don't
see that.
know, yeah, I'm not sure how if I feel disappointed in that or anything. I just feel kind of like there were a couple moments where I was like, and then I thought, "Oh, no. Is that
Yeah.
okay?" Just a little when then going back and watching Jarhead, like, a kind of juxtaposition that made me be like, "Man, this guy has been making these kinds of movies for, like, 20 years. Holy
I
shit."
know. He loves a good, like, military, like, story, 'cause, yeah,
He's out here being an action star.
we were even thinking about, like, doing, Brothers, which I haven't seen that one, but I know that's, like, a similar, like,
Mhm.
dramatic, military story. Um, but yeah, like, the whole yeah, whenever it was, like, IED, and then it would pop up, like, the definition, like, or I was like, "Don't need it, don't like it."
Yeah,
It
it's all good.
in, in Jarhead, like, yeah, it was a really interesting, like, juxtaposition because, like, yeah, in Jarhead, they do like, you have Jake Gyllenhaal's narration, but, like, like, fits that he's breaking down, like, all the different terms for, like, things, like,
Yes.
that they call it in the military, and then he's like, "Yeah, but boots are still boots, and belts are still belt," and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and he's kind of, like, orienting you into the world, but, like, in a movie like this where it's, like, trying to be, like, super realistic and grounded and dramatic, it's like,
Mhm.
that just takes you out of it, and, like,
Well, you can
um
either be the "We're in the army now" movie, or you can be the one that's talking about the specific mission that they go on. You know,
yeah.
like, the "Let's get into the realism of this whole world" war movie is definitely where Jarhead is, and it just kinda feels a little bit like The Covenant's like, "I wanna have a taste of that, but I have to make a movie about kind of like a specific mission." Mm.
And they picked Guy Ritchie, who does not do grounded, gritty.
Yeah,
Like,
like, what was the meeting? I'm so I we need to know. Someday we'll know.
like and I kind of like, I did like Wrath of Man, I know that one's kind of, like, split, but, like,
Yeah.
again, Jason Statham, British guy, knew as soon as him and Statham have this thing where I'm like, I know, like, if they work together, I'm probably gonna like it,
Yeah,
and it's a heist movie, so those are, like,
and
right there, it was like,
it's true, my boy Josh Hartnett was there, there's a
Hartnett,
lot to like,
yep.
there's a lot to like. Yeah, I guess
Um,
you're right, the
yeah.
choices that he's been making as of late, what an interesting thing movie to make after Wrath of Man, to, like, do Wrath of to do Aladdin, to do Wrath of Man, to then do this. What a journey we've been on for a couple of years there.
And Wrath of Man, I was like, okay, like he's trying. Like, you could see that he was trying to ground it a little bit more. It wasn't like this like balls to the wall action movie, which I liked. And The Gentleman too is his
Oh,
other
yeah,
recent
I
one that we
forgot
haven't
about The
talked
Gentleman.
about. I
Mhm.
again British
Yeah, the
main
return to
characters,
form. Mhm.
and yeah, returning to his go to style. And it's like I understand him trying to get away from that, but I just think this type of story was just like not for him. Like it would be like if
Yeah.
Michael Bay like, this is like a Michael Bay, story,
Drama.
like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that
like,
he
if
would
Michael
love
Bay was gonna do Pearl Harbor again, right?
yeah.
Like, it doesn't work. It's a weird thing when, like, your forte can still be in the wheelhouse. Because I think you're right, he captured the tension here, but what he does is, like, something else, and that's
Yeah.
totally okay. Like, he's an artist, that's totally allowed.
I will say, I think the standout for me, and I have to look at, like, what this other guy's done, is The Interpreter.
Fuck
Like,
yes.
he completely stole the movie. There were
Yeah.
several moments in this movie where I was like, "Why the fuck are we following Jake Gyllenhaal? Like, this guy is vanilla. There's no
Mhm.
character here."
We've seen it
Like,
a million
yeah.
times.
And then the
Mhm.
interpreter guy, like, even though he doesn't have a lot of lines necessarily, like, I just couldn't take my eyes off of him. I'm
Yeah,
like,
he's
this
so
guy,
baller.
yeah, he had some like gangster moves that he was doing. Like, he knew about this world and he was like using his street smarts to where like the military was coming in, not knowing like how it actually works. And so I really liked him. And every time that he was off screen, which is like half of the movie, I was kind of
Unfortunately.
checked out. I was kind of like, man, why aren't we following this guy? Jake Gyllenhaal should be the supporting guy.
Well,
This
that's
guy should be
why
the main guy.
I think that's why I felt like it was randomly 2 movies in a way as well.
Yeah.
Like, I needed a better weaving together of their stories, because it's true, it sort of was like each of them had a chapter of this movie that was focused on them, and I agree, like, the chapter focused on him was pretty baller. Like,
Oh
it's an
man. Yeah.
interesting story to tell. We haven't had one of these kinds of war movies either, where, like, it's not just about a battle in particular. It's about sort of like the relationship between the people who help us in this place, which is like not usually part of the war movie. So I found that to just be the unique thing, which is why I was like, then don't back up and like need the loving
Yeah.
nicknames and all the like things that they can belong in a different
God.
war movie, you know?
Yeah, it was so cliche, some of that military stuff and corny. I could not every time, and like you could tell they just like every time he had to meet with like that superior officer, you could tell like it was like this that was probably like one day of shooting for the actor. Like they just kept coming back to the same room.
But yes,
Like
yes. Also, the Alexander Ludwig, the super young guy who's been in like a bunch of action movies as of
yeah,
late, he's a hot 15, 20 years younger than both of the dudes in all the rooms he was in. And he's like, I'm
yeah.
somehow in charge of things in here too, though. We're all the same age, right, guys? It
Yeah, and it
was
was all that
such a
like
weird vibe.
jokey like you play hard to get. You just gotta buy me dinner first. It's like, dude, what year is this?
Yeah, what are we doing? Yes, yeah,
Like,
weird,
God, it
just a
was.
weird way of framing this story, when I think the best parts of it were like when they were in the thick of it, both filmmaking wise and storytelling wise.
Yeah, and like like even though this is like a Hollywoodized version of like this one interpreter who has the skills of like
Yes,
an
yes.
underground kingpin, blah blah blah. Like,
Mhm.
all that aside, that was some baller shit that I've never seen before. Like, I was like, I'm down. Like, that guy and his physical performance, because like he has to do a lot of like, I mean, literally carrying Jake Gyllenhaal for like half this
Mhm.
movie,
Mhm.
and very convincing and like I said, intense like moments where they're almost getting caught, and like the music just like pulsing, like all that stuff I thought was like the best, and then it gets to Jakey, and they don't really explain what went down, but he's in America now, and his wife is like, "Whatever you say goes." Like, it was just
Y Yeah, that yeah, like, let's just go right ahead and mortgage the house, like, I'm like, "What is
what?
happening? What even does any of this mean?" Like, just show him in the helicopter headed back to do this shit. I don't
Yeah,
need any of this
so
weird
boring.
backstory that I'm like, I don't think it yeah, I don't
Maybe
think it,
they're
like,
trying to
helps.
avoid like the nagging like housewife trope, but at the same time, it was like, okay, so then where's the drama of it? Like, they're just gonna sit down and she's like, I'm supporting you in every decision you want.
Yeah.
And it's like, so why did we need this scene? Like, we didn't, there was no need for this scene at all.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it felt like it was longer than it needed to be, and there was stuff in there where, like, the journey that we were able to be with in real
Why even have
time.
him back in America?
Well,
Like,
why did we have to montage through it like 7 times too? He was back in America, he remembered a little bit before he got back, then he remembered the same images again in a dream, and then the same images again when he got trashed. Like, it's such a random yeah, a kind of
why
separation
didn't
that
they
made no
just
sense.
like immediately better movie for me. He like whatever he's injured, but they like kind of like get away, and then it's like his recovery, and like him having like, he can still have all those visions or whatever like as he's recovering, but
Mhm.
he's still overseas, like he's not like
Yeah.
he's still in that situation. And then they're like, okay, we want to ship you out to America. And he's like, no,
I'm
I'm
not
not going
leaving
to
without
go
him.
until
Mhm.
yes, exactly. So like we didn't need America at all. Like that just seemed like so unnecessary. Like I
That's
didn't
why I was sort of
understand.
like, is it based on anything? Because it can't be based on like it's trying to look so much like it's based on something because it's real in ways that make no sense to the action story that could be there. And you're right. That's why I like the idea of inspired by a true story when we can be like, yeah, this cool thing sort of happened, but like it's even cooler if you imagine it this way. And I feel like this movie really could have benefited from that because like a Three Kings is such a fun war movie to return to, even though, it's not sugarcoating 100%. It's still like a piece of something in an authentic auteur's vision. And I just like, where was his vision in any of the America stuff?
Okay, can I tell you something? I'm looking up on IMDb because like we're going around this true story thing. I do not think it's a true story, but I just want
Okay.
to make sure.
Thank you.
But okay, the whole this is another thing that drove me crazy. The title sucks. What the
Yeah,
hell is this
it doesn't
title?
work.
Guy
No.
Ritchie's The Covenant? That title sucks ass. Like what?
I mean, I guess I understand putting your name in front of a movie, like people do it, but I don't really get why The Covenant. Like they never made a bond in a real way or something.
No.
They never that is
And
not
there's
what this
already a movie
was.
called The Covenant, and it was not good.
No, it was a terrible movie about boy
Yeah.
witches. I
Yes.
remember. I saw it.
So okay, and then so this was my thing. I was like, why not just call it The Interpreter? So like in my
There's
head, I'm like,
also
better
a
title.
Nicole Kidman
Yes,
interpreter movie.
I knew that. I was like, I think there's another Interpreter movie. But look, on the IMDb it says in December 2022, Ritchie revealed the title had been changed from The Interpreter to The Covenant. The
Wait, so
Interpreter
it
is
was
a
going to be The
hundred.
Interpreter?
I guess so.
And then wouldn't you just put your name in front of that in order to distinguish from the Nicole Kidman one?
Guy Ritchie's The Interpreter is like 10 times
Way
better than
better.
Guy
Oh, it
Ritchie's The
sounds so
Covenant.
good.
Like,
It's
why?
true. I thought it was like some sort of magic movie when I first just heard the title. And then after watching the movie too, I'm sort of like, it's like one of the 12 definitions of the word. I don't like it.
Yeah, it was. Oh my
Almost,
goodness.
right? It was like middle of the road, perfectly entertaining, moments of tension, but not necessarily what we come to expect from Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, and like, yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal too has been on an interesting. Like, he's gonna be in the Roadhouse remake, which we're going to do, like,
Yeah, we are.
100% when that comes out.
Yes. Yes, it's a very important film to movie buffs.
And I love Jake Gyllenhaal, like, generally, like, even, Ambulance, I thought,
Yeah,
like, was such a, like, weird departure for him, but, like, so funny, like, he was
his
so funny in
character
there.
in Ambulance, his, like, off the rails
Yeah,
guy, I
unhinged.
if only he had brought that into the America stuff in The Covenant. Like, if only he
Yeah.
brought that, because that was actually pretty dope.
Because like yeah, we've seen PTSD, like
A million
cannot
times.
sleep. Yeah, like you said, like it's another cliche, and but like this, yeah, this like brotherhood bond or whatever, and like that they were trying to sell. I was not buying it. I was like, you needed something more, but like I keep coming back to this, but it did feel like a video game in the best moments. It did feel like a video game to me, and I was
Yes.
like I they were definitely inspired by it or something, like some Metal Gear Solid or some shit, because all the like sneaking up, and then like he lost his gun at one point,
Yes.
and Jake was like, okay, they dispose these two guys, and he's like, all right, take that guy's gun, and it was like, okay, this is like straight up video game strategy stuff. Like we have to
Mhm.
survive,
Yeah.
we have to like count our ammo and like our guns, like we're stuck in this situation, and
I
like
mean, it makes me wonder, was that always a military thing that then truly got translated into games? So now, like, the average person knows, like, if we were dropped in a war zone because we have had access to video games, like, we might be
yeah.
able to figure it out.
Yeah, like the survival story was pretty cool. I like that, but um yeah,
I've
just
seen that too, right? Like Lone
true.
Survivor or whatever,
But
I
like with
think.
the with the two guys and like the interpreter angle, I thought that was like that
Yeah.
could have been enough to like hold a story there. And If they had
Totally.
focused on the interpreter and like, yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal had like absolutely no characterization at all. Like it was just like
Nah.
military guy,
Yeah.
married military guy with beard.
With beard. Thank you for saying that. The beard was so frustrating, especially because I'm like, dude,
So many
shave your
beards in this
beard.
movie.
Yeah, you like lie about your identity. Shave your beard, idiot.
I was
What?
thinking the same thing. I was like, I wonder when he goes back, and he didn't even change his name to like it was instead of
Ron.
Don K, it was Ron K. Dude, undercover skills on
Everybody
zero.
was asleep. Everybody was asleep except for the dude who played the interpreter because, like, he recognized this is an awesome character. What this guy is doing in this movie is pretty dope. A couple of, dummies are in charge here, but whatever. I'm going to go. And I'm really glad because that's who I left being like, man, that guy's good. I got to go look at where else I can watch
Yeah.
his work.
He was amazing. And then like, yeah, so many beards in here. The other thing I was making me hot, like just watching it. I was like, why would you have a beard and if you're if you're in
There
that
were a lot of
environment?
yeah, and there were, like, a lot of weird masculinity signaling things, like, he would
Yeah.
always, like, pull on his beard, and that's why I was like, "Oh,
Oh
he has to have a
yeah.
beard so he could fucking pull on it," but
Yeah.
also, when he was, like, upset because his other battalion had gotten murdered,
Yeah.
he was like
Yeah, and pulled on
he,
his
like, did this
beard.
weird ass shit with his mouth that
Yeah.
I was like, "Just why can't he cry?"
Yeah,
It's
and
just him and the
an
interpreter, like
interpreter could have reassured him, but didn't. Like that was like another like, well, you could have been like, it's okay, bro. But like, yeah,
yeah.
it was like, yeah, I get what you mean. It was like that toxic masculinity thing of like, we don't talk about our feelings. You better breathe and bottle it in. It's like, no.
No, what are we doing? We know better than this. We know better.
I
It's
will
true.
say though, that compound scene, best action scene in the movie. That
It's
scene was
true.
fucking sick.
The
That scene was
sequences
sick.
were good, and that is what I'm grateful for with Guy Ritchie, but it is weird that, like, the story in the in between was, like, tolerable at best,
Yeah, and like and it people going into this like expecting like a movie buff certified like action movie, it's really not, I would say,
unfortunately.
on that level. Like but again, if you're into like, Call of Duty Warzone and stuff like that, like some of this movie is like straight up just like going into compounds and like taking out people and then like having to survive while they're outnumbered, uh like behind
Yeah.
trucks and stuff like that. Like all that stuff was pretty cool, but
Yeah.
overall I was
I
kind of
would
down the
definitely
middle.
yeah, I'd say if your war movie has to be something with, like, a lot going on in it, just wait for this one to come through on streaming because it isn't, like, constant stuff the way that, like, you gotta go see John Wick because it's constant stuff.
Yeah, and if you need another reason to not go see this in theaters, on IMDb it also says featured in Tucker Carlson tonight on April
Great.
21st.
Lovely.
He
Not
probably,
wonderful.
you know what it was? He was probably being like woke Hollywood again. Like
Yeah, there was, like, a weird thing where it's, like, the message at the very end too being like, "Also, guys, not cool about the
yeah.
interpreter stuff." It's like, "Yeah, that's what this whole movie was about. What are you talking
Right.
about?"
Yeah, we really did interpreters dirty. Like,
It
you should feel bad. And I was like, well, this movie didn't make me feel any better about it.
it
Like,
it ki it kinda makes me feel, like, a little bit patronized as an audience
yeah,
member.
for
It's like,
sure.
you don't have to walk everybody by hand into a historical epic or something, like, people can figure out a way to connect to it, and this one is, like, not that far in the past, so you really didn't have to hand feed it to me,
No,
you
I was
know?
gonna say it's only like what, 10, 15 years or something like that. How old
Oh,
is
I
I can't
think
remember.
the Covenant supposedly, like, started in, like, 2018 or something.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't
Like
even know like what it doesn't distinguish itself at all.
no, no, exactly. Hold on, I gotta turn this on. Yeah, I feel like it's not that far in the past, so it's, like, kind of random because it's sort of talking about I guess, like, it's sort of trying to comment on what's going on, or
Yeah.
make some statement, but then I'm sort of like, "Why? Why that
Mhm.
too?" Right? Like, why not
Yeah.
just tell
It's tried to
a
be so many
story?
different things, and like if you could just focus on one,
That'd be
this
great.
might have could have been a good movie. Might have.
Might have.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay, last thing on IMDb that's so random. This movie is so random.
Yes. Yes, it is.
There's a picture of Jake Gyllenhaal on the red carpet with Jamie Lee Curtis for some reason.
What? Are they just like good friends? And we didn't know that?
I have no idea. She's not in this movie. It's
No,
like,
no, she's just here to support. Is she who
oh
is she
god.
friends with? She must be friends with Jake,
That'd be
right? Like
funny if it's like in the credits, she's like voice on the walkie-talkie or something.
it'd be amazing if she produced. If she was like,
Or
"This is
something
a
like that.
good story, I'm producing." Like maybe she produced.
She's just like all, cuddled up with Jakey on the
Amazing.
red
Good.
carpet.
I love
Good
it.
for
I
her.
love
Yeah.
this. Yeah, the secret good friends of Hollywood continue to surprise. I love it.
Oh my god. All right, do you want to talk about Jarhead now?
Let's do it.
Because yeah, much better movie right off the
Yes.
bat.
Yeah. Yep.
uh yeah, do you want to say what it's about for people who haven't seen it? I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, sure thing. So, if you haven't seen Jarhead, it was released in 2005 and it's about a Marine who's desperate to see battle while serving in Desert Storm. So, it is a
Yeah.
straightforward kind of story, but it is so good. It was
Mm,
such a good rewatch. I was like,
yeah.
"Holy shit, this movie
Kind of a
this
bummer.
movie's good."
Kind of a
Yeah, like
bummer,
I was like, "Damn,
but
this is so
good.
heavy." But
Yeah.
also not yeah, like a true telling, like a psychological telling of just what it must have been like, and it made me really be like,
Yeah.
"Dude, I'm so glad that there's no draft and that, like, I'm not a dude and
Oh
I
my
don't have
god,
to, like,
yeah.
think about going." Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah, it's definitely not like an uplifting like and I think I was like thinking about this because you know how like there's like this argument out there that I can't remember who said it, like there's no such thing as an anti-war film. Have you heard about this argument?
I think I have heard it before,
Where it's
and,
like because it's aesthetically pleasing to us, the audience, that like it promotes war, even though it like
no
some of them
matter
like are
what.
trying. Yeah. I think Jarhead is like one of the more anti-war films. If you watch Jarhead and you want to like enlist after seeing it, like something is wrong with you because the
1000%.
depiction of military life is like so like depressing and lonely and
Mhm.
boring. Like I was just like, God, like to your point, like
Torturous.
sometimes I'm like I do have that thing where it's like, maybe I should have gone in the military, could have got college for free. And then I got to watch movies like this, and I'm like, yeah, maybe not.
Nope.
I don't
Nope.
think I would have been cut out for that.
No, no, because this movie basically points out to you that, like, most war movies are glorifying it, and that's what these young men come to expect in some way, and that's actually what's so torturous about it, is
Yeah.
that, like, it's really just another kind of job, which sucks. The idea that, like, you
Yeah.
don't get to go be hero, that, like, your job is to just be here with a gun and wait, and
It's,
maybe, like,
yeah.
you thought you might kill people and be badass, and it's like, "I never
You're
even
not.
fired my weapon." Like
Yeah. Ugh.
the torture of like 100 days in the desert doing the same thing every day too. You might as well be in prison, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then that was, remember one of the guy, Lucas Black from Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
Fuck yes. Way to show
uh,
up. Yep.
he was like I think that was his character, right? Where he's like, they said I could go to jail or they said I could go here.
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and he's like, I chose here. And but then they, they're always questioning, like, what would I be doing if I was like back home? There's all
Hmm.
this like anxiety about like their girlfriends and wives like cheating on them. Like it
And
was
they
awful.
do.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
It was so depressing and like, oh my god, there's so many like layers to it um
it's true. It
that we
is
could
a
talk about.
yeah, like a deep kind of movie that is aesthetically pleasing in the sense that like you really feel like you're there when you're watching this. It's so dirty, it's so sweaty, it's so
I mean, there's
sticky.
some
Like
straight up beautiful shots in here, like if
this is true.
for the aesthetically pleasing argument, like even like when it's raining oil, like that looks super cool, like
When
on
the sun
like,
is setting over the fire, it's like a pink
yeah,
purple. Oh, man.
him and
It's
jamie
true.
him and Jamie Foxx like looking at the fires that are coming out of the oil wells or whatever, like,
Mhm.
yeah, and he's like, they're like just admiring the view. He's like, where else can you see this? Like,
Yes,
There's some pretty
yes.
cool shots in here, yeah.
Listen, Sam Mendes, right? Like, who
Yeah.
saw it coming? Not me until I was into movies in a meaningful way.
Mhm.
But going back and revisiting it really made me just think like, wow, some of the leanings on like Full Metal Jacket and some of the desires to sort of represent the Desert Storm psychology war movie made me really excited. And then I all I could think was like the comparison to 1917 and sort of two different
Yeah.
mindsets of war and two different things behind. But like, would you guess that those two movies were directed by the same guy? Like, in what world are they?
Only from a stylistic standpoint, because I think I was trying to read, like, some of the reviews back then, because it's you would be surprised that, like, it was kind of, like, mixed positive. It wasn't, like,
Yeah.
like, all the way positive, and I feel like a lot of the complaints were about, like, some of the stylish flares
Mm,
that he, like, added to it, like, from, Jake Gyllenhaal's point of view, or, like, that you don't really know a lot about him because of that, like, it's all just, like, whatever.
yeah.
And in 1917, that's the knock that people have on that movie, is that the one shot thing is kind of a
Yeah. One dimensional
distraction.
way of
Mhm.
showing the character.
But I don't like for Jarhead, I just think it's like I think your mileage may vary in each of those films or whatever, but like for me, for Jarhead, like it is so so complex in its depiction, and like you're they show Apocalypse Now, you're basically watching Jake Gyllenhaal like descend into madness in a
Yes.
similar way.
Yes.
Like at the beginning, he's kind of just like, I filled out a form, he says, and like now I'm here.
Yeah. I got
And
lost on the way to college.
yeah.
Straight up.
And you can just tell he's just like, a kid with like no sense of direction and kind of looking for answers. And it's like, this was not what anybody signed up for. Like they're just
No.
literally wasting time pissing in the desert.
Well, and all of them have been promised something. All of them
Yeah.
have an idea of what they're supposed to come and expect there. And, all of it is so superficial and one-dimensional. Like the
Hmm.
idea that like these women all over the world will pleasure you to get you to give your life up is so despicable.
I
It's so
know.
bad to do to young men. You know what I mean? And like I
Yeah.
think that's what I appreciated so much revisiting this movie was like looking at these young men who like on the surface level are so misogynistic, the worst kind of
Oh
dude,
yeah.
and still being able to find some empathy for them, because I think that's actually what this movie accomplishes, is that
Oh
I
yeah.
think it was effective to get the device of like him saying to you, I'm not gonna tell you about my mom or my
Yeah.
sister or all this stuff
Exactly.
because I don't know how to integrate it into my personality.
Mhm.
Instead, you're gonna watch my personality fracture since it's not real.
Yeah, I have
And
no personality. My
yes,
the military is my person, which a lot of people that
yes,
happen like that intentionally they do that. They like
that's right.
you have no opinion, you have no like the one like Lucas Black again, the one guy who like tries to question everything,
Yep.
like gets shit on all the time, like take the damn pills, like
Yeah, you have no rights. You have no
yeah,
rights. Like
yeah.
you're not civilians, like you are Marines now. And it's
Mhm.
true, like watching the different variations of this type of man who goes into service or something, each reconcile what it actually means to be there versus what they thought they were in for versus like what is in store for them after
Mhm.
is what makes this movie so unique. And I remember people giving it shit being like, nothing happens. Nothing happens in it.
That was the other complaint I saw
And I
for
was like,
more.
"That's the point. Oh my
Yeah.
god."
I know. Yeah, that was more from not from critics, but from like general audiences, like reactions, of course. Like, not
Right.
enough action, blah blah blah. Like, but yeah, again, that's the point. Like, and like Peter Sarsgaard, like I was phenomenal. Like
Let's go.
him and Jake for sure, I think were like the highlights of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, and like the most tense scene or whatever, like actiony scene, I guess you could say, is when like they have the chance to snipe somebody at the end of the movie, and then it gets taken away from them, and like it's
Mhm.
such an interesting like like anxiety that it gives you, because it's like you want them this for them, because like
Yes.
like this is what they've been waiting for and trained for their whole
Yes.
time, but at the same time you're like, do I want to see these
Yeah,
guys
I'm
die too,
wishing
like
that they
murder on
yeah.
somebody?
Yes, yes.
It's such a like, how do like that confliction, and then yeah, to have it like taken away, and like yeah, Sarsgaard just goes completely ballistic, like, let us have
Oh,
this kill, man,
please,
like
please. Yeah, he
yeah,
literally begs. He's like gonna
yeah,
cry. And I think again, I appreciate this. Like the raw emotion of like these
mhm.
guys want to kill so bad that like when the kid with the glasses accidentally sets a fire and like
Oh,
blows up all the flares.
that's the other
When
scene. Yeah.
Yeah, that sequence when he's got him at gunpoint
Yeah.
and is like, that's how close these dudes are and how trained these dudes are to be ready to kill. And they have to hold all of that inside. They have to manage
Yeah.
all of that and then take a bunch of shit. Psychological torture, you know,
Mhm.
I, that raw emotion, I feel like is what Jake was wanting to be a part of his performance in The Covenant, but it just like
Didn't
wasn't,
translate.
it couldn't get there. Yeah, it just
Yeah.
wasn't really there. Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's so good in it. Fuck.
Brian Garrity too, like that's his name.
Yes.
Yeah, he's that whole scene is like the other standout for me too. Like where, again, he's just this like nerdy, awkward kid, doesn't really get like
Yeah.
like have a lot of friends or whatever, or social skills. He
Mhm.
messes up, and Jake Gyllenhaal gets demoted for it, and then so like you could
I
see
mean,
both sides. You know what I mean? Of like,
it's a total trap. He's a kind of
yeah,
guy who wishes he could be the kind of dude that's in the military, and he's
mhm,
fucking doing a favor for Jake. Like, he took
yeah,
Jake's shift. So it's one of those things where, like, you see how all these men are also trying to, like, to distinguish themselves and also be brothers at the same
mhm.
time.
Yeah, and then, like, yeah, when Jake, like, blows up at him and he's with the gun, and, like, he does that, like, the whole speech or whatever, like, "Repeat after me, this is my rifle," and he's, like,
Oh,
stuttering through it, and then
and he
he,
says
like,
to the other dude, like, "You didn't see anything, like, it could go
yeah,
off by accident, right, man?" And he was like, "Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, and I
yeah, matter of
left,
fact, I'm
so."
not even here, like, when he
Yes.
goes no, and then but then when, the scene culminates with, like, him giving him the gun and being like, "Shoot me," and he's like, and
Right?
that's one of, like, 2 times when we see when, like, Jake actively, like, in a way, he's trying to kill himself, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's oof,
I
it's
mean,
really heavy, it's really, like, horrifying, like, there's that scene, and then, like, when they finally do get some, like, action and battle, and he just stands up, and he's just like, "You know what, like, if this is what life is, then fuck it." Like, and he's just, it's oof, it's yeah, if
yeah,
like I
it's
said, if
so
this
good.
makes you want to go to war and like
Yeah.
and join the Marines, then I don't know, man. Something's wrong with you.
And I feel like for, like, each of the great wars, there, like, is one of these movies that's either based on someone's memoir or just trying to get into the mind of what it's like for these young men to be there. Because I think it's easy to be
Mhm.
like, "What? It's so badass." But it's like, "N Oh my god, the fear that must
Yeah.
exist at, like, a constant level there," I felt like was so palpable when I was watching Jarhead, and then I was being like, "Except nothing does happen, so that is maybe even worse." It's sort of
Yep.
like if somebody kind of shoots up your compound, like maybe once a week or something, your fear is like pretty justified and like you might be able to sleep at night
Right.
because you're not making anything
But you
up.
see you see how
But,
tense it is, like, when they run into the guys with the camels, and they're like,
ooh,
they think, like, they're hiding bombs, and they're just ready to, like, fucking go right there, but again, it's like, it shows that negative impact of, like, always being on edge, always waiting for
mm-hmm,
something to happen, and then nothing
mm-hmm.
happening. Of course, you're gonna think like any stranger that walks in, and then it gets revealed that the whole reason they were walking there is because one of the other guys shot their camel, and
Yeah.
it's
And
like,
that dude is like fully gone deranged,
oh, yeah,
right?
he's
Like,
sick.
oh, man, and but that's the thing too, like, that's something that I remember being a big part of Desert Storm is that, like, that was a time when soldiers were doing really humiliating things to prisoners of war, and it was, like, a
Mhm.
huge cultural issue, and to sort of see them find a way to try to reflect on that and show that, like, that's not how everyone is handling it, but that's the level of psychological strain where, like, a person who came here for the wrong reasons may break in a way that is truly vile, and this is what it looks like that dude is pretty good. He's
Yeah,
good.
he's so yeah, just Evan Jones is his name, and
Yeah,
you may know him from 8 Mile as
I
Cheddar Bob.
was gonna say I remember him from 8 Mile.
But yeah, he plays a really good, like, just like off the rails, like
Like
per
another dude who
yeah.
has no identity really, who has doesn't know what he's doing or what he might want either, or what he's supposed to do
The
here.
fact he's like I think what stood out to me this time too was just like the lack of privacy. Like that's one thing that I could not why I couldn't join
Yes.
the military personally. Just like all those dudes 24/7,
Yep.
no right to privacy at all. Like you're
Nope.
just stuck there and it's like and there's this they're like horny and they're just frustrated and it's
So
like
horny. Oh my
yeah,
god.
it's like so you're in that like even when he has the dead body, he's like hiding it from them or trying to
Yep,
like,
and he
"Don't worry
can't.
about what I got going on over here," like, and then
So
they
fucked
finally
up.
see what's going on. It's like, "Oof, man,
Well, and that's the
you're."
thing too, is that, like, no one is safe, and even though they are with each other constantly, the level of loneliness that I felt like I could see coming
Oh,
through this
yeah.
time also made me just be like, "Man, I feel so bad for young dudes." Like, I don't wanna permit any of the bad behavior because, like, when ladies came around, they weren't very nice to them, but
Well,
I
like, and
would say
that's like another thing too, like, you know, all out like nowadays when we look at some of these movies and it's like there's no women in it or their roles are very like small or whatever and it's like okay in this movie that's the case but also there are no women at this time there were no women in the military over there so
Mhm.
like that makes sense that there are no speaking parts for the women they like literally none I don't think like even when he meets his girl like only on the phone
Yeah,
but then when he
yeah,
sees his girlfriend
girlfriends.
at the end, you just see like her reaction. You don't get to hear her what
Yeah.
she's saying or whatever. And it's like that coldness, that like
Well,
loneliness,
like
like you said, it's like there's no that type of you know, companionship is like completely gone when you're in the military like that. Yeah.
for sure, for sure. And also there's just like this idea again too of like everything at its most base level. You guys just want to fuck and stuff. And that's really what a lot of their relationships
Yeah.
to women kind of boil down to, which is really sad for them. Like sure, maybe the currency among one another is something, but that is something that they also show you, I think, wears thin. That like
Hmm.
eventually it's sort of like, no,
It breaks
we
down
are
like
all
the
yeah, since
guy
we're all
that
each other, this is happening. This will happen to all of us.
I mean, the guy that, like, his wife sends the tape, the Deer Hunter tape, and,
Dude.
like, his wife is cheating on him, like,
S
that was just
Wild.
so fucked up, and it just gets progressively worse and, like, more depressing, like,
Yes.
as it goes along, because it's like, they're all like, he's
Yeah, at
into it,
first
the
yeah, he's like,
husband is
"Oh, what
into it.
is this?" Yeah.
Yeah, and then he realizes that's his wife getting smashed on screen, and
Yep.
he's like, "That's my wife," and, like, just goes
Yeah, goes
ballistic.
off.
They have to carry him out, and then you get Jake Gyllenhaal looking at it himself, and they're having to go like, "Man, what are you doing?" And he's like, I wanna watch it. I wanna know what it feels like to have your girlfriend cheat on you," and it's like, man,
Right?
this
Right?
such a bummer of a movie. It's so good
Oh,
though. It's so good. Like the montage that they have, I just went up and pulled it on YouTube like before this because it's so well edited and the music kicking in with Nirvana, something in the way.
nice. Oh,
Um,
yes.
that whole sequence where it's like that's I think that's when he has like kind of not the fight, but like like his girlfriend writes him and he's having all these doubts about
Mhm.
like their relationship and you really feel that loneliness setting in. He looks in the mirror and it's his girlfriend staring back at him. Then he
Yes.
throws up the sand and it's like he wakes up and he's like choking. And it's
Yep.
like, oh God. Like yeah, the use of that song I think is just uh it basically if you listen to that song it kind of really evokes the feeling for me of this movie of just like that creeping sense of like dread
Yep.
but like nothing happening too like and you're just stuck in this like endless loop
Yes.
uh that's over and over again every day, the same thing, like where you're burning shit, like that's your day, like
Yes, yes, it's sort of like
literal
in
shit.
it's sort of like, you're delaying the inevitable because you have to, because that's how it works, because you are just one small piece of it, and I think a lot of people come in with a big ego, and then the military wants to break that down and then kinda just leaves you with it, and I think for me, the, like, most powerful moment is when they finally arrive home and that man just, like, pops right on the bus and is like, "Yeah, guys," and then you like see that guy's realization coming through, and it's just
Yep.
like, fuck, shit.
Yeah. It's like, and you see it on
Epic.
all of their faces, like, oh, this is us now, like, I
Y-
guess, like this.
yeah, we don't want to see ourselves as that way, but like we know something no one else knows.
Yep. And like that was a cool edit at the end too, where he looks out the window and he's like, I'm still in the desert, like that's like a really good shot.
Yeah, the wave across as like the backdrop set.
And this
Yeah.
this movie just in general like made me feel it's the weather over here in Wisconsin is trash right now. It feels like fall. And it's April. So
I'm so
watching
sorry,
this
man.
made me feel hot. Like I was just like, "Oh my god." Like especially the scenes where they had to put on the full like
Oh
suit
my
like
gosh.
the
Yep,
and
and
they're
play like
playing
football and
football.
stuff.
Oh my. I was like, how did not one of them not pass out? Like no
Yeah, I
way.
always like when I was rewatching it, I was like, "Does someone die during this scene?" Like, it seems like someone could die during this scene, but then
Yeah.
that was it again, where like throughout this movie, the closest they come or the most danger I feel like they're in a lot of the time is part of their training.
I
Because
remember
we
the guy that, like, pokes his head out as they're doing the live, I remembered that kill. I was,
mm,
like, waiting for that, and I might have been like, another movie might not have done that too, but I was, like, waiting for that. I was like, "Yep, one of the
it
guys is gonna freak out," and
yep.
yeah, and then he dies,
Yeah.
there, and then Jamie Foxx shout
Yeah,
out to
we
Jamie
hadn't
Foxx.
I was
He's
gonna say we
incredible
haven't
in this
talked about
movie.
him. Yeah,
He
he's
is
my
he
favorite for sure.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, like, and then in that scene that we're talking about, like yelling at the corpse, like, "You
Yeah.
dumb motherfucker! If you would have just listened."
That's
And
right,
they're
"Why
all
didn't you
just like,
listen to me?"
yeah, and they're all just like sitting there, just like, because this is like their first training, and they're all just like freaked out for good reason. Like, did
And
we
you
make a
have to
mistake coming here?
yeah, yeah, and I feel like if I was there, like, I might wonder if they were lying to me when they said live ammunition, like, if they were just
Mm,
fucking with me,
yeah,
and so part of me wondered that too, that, like, they're asking you to trust them because that's actually part of this too, that, like, you need to
yeah,
trust them like it's your life, and whether they tell you the truth about the ammunition or not, like, you have to trust each other.
have to.
Oh, man, he's
Yeah.
so good. He
He's
is
really good.
so
I
good.
mean, like one of the shots I like to that stood out to me upon rewatch was when they're just shooting all of the ammunition into the air at the end of the movie, and then you
Yep,
get shirtless Jamie Foxx with the cigar in his mouth with those
yes,
aviator shades, and I think
yep.
the hat too, like the sergeant hat too. And I
I'm
was
not
like,
sure,
yeah,
but it is
I was
I
like,
made a
what a
GIF of it.
badass, what a
Yeah,
badass, like.
I I made a GIF of it. I'll send it to
Oh, did
you
you?
because
Oh,
it's the
thank
best
you.
moment. Yeah, I
It's
had to.
awesome. It is awesome. Like, yeah, that moment and just in general, like all of his scenes, like because he is hard on Jake, like even at first when he's like, he plays that prank on him of like playing the bugle or whatever. And
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like,
yeah, bugle tryouts.
I guess you're gonna have to play it with your mouth then. and, and Jake, shout out to Jake Gyllenhaal, just like completely doing it like way longer than like anyone
Yeah, going
expected.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
here, like, totally ready to
2
to
different
go all
songs, and then
in.
he does Stevie Wonder, and then Jamie Foxx finally, "Can you shut the fuck up? There's no bugle track."
Yeah, damn, are you this daft for real? But I guess they
Oh
kind of
god.
need and want that, so it's a good thing to
So
to
there's
see
moments of
too.
humor in it, like, it's
Yeah.
not all because you need it, otherwise this would have been a really tough watch if it was just constantly and, like but yeah, like, you find out, like, Jamie Foxx's character, he's like, "My brother has a drywall business in California, I could be making $100,000 a year, but I love this job." Like, he's, like, one of the few, that loves the sick, he loves being in it, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's a good sergeant. I mean, there's nothing there's nothing to say that he's like unhinged or like out of control. Like he's just a very good manager. Like he says that he's like, if I would have been over there, I would have probably been a manager like
I
drywall man,
mean,
because he has those like leadership skills like that you see,
yeah,
even though he is like a dick for like to
yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal and a lot of them, but they kind of need it. They're kind of like idiots, like you said, like they're
Yeah, they
they're
need a
immature.
person, yeah,
Yeah.
with conviction like him. They need somebody like him who can sort of look at them and say, like, I see all the same things you see, but I'm not scared, and you don't have to be scared, and you're gonna be okay. And I feel like, just like in the Hurt Locker, this idea that
Yep.
the translatable skills that you have over there can just easily fit in somewhere over here
Hmm.
isn't really the same, because it's like if you're really good at keeping these people alive and you try to bring that back over here where like it's not your job to keep your employees alive, like no it isn't, they can take care of themselves. That's like a world of anxiety, and if you're over there it's reward, and you get to light
Hmm.
up a cigar and fire guns in the air and be like, that's right, most of my guys made it out of here, let's go.
Yeah, I also like the scene where it's a serious scene too again, but it's with Jamie Foxx and Jake at the end where he like sits in the pile, like among the pile of burned bodies,
Hmm.
like, and while he lies and says he has to go take a shit or whatever, but then
Yeah.
but then you just see him sitting there, and it's like you almost expected like one of them to start talking. Like I was just like, man, this guy like is so lonely
Yep.
that this is like him like having a moment to himself like among these corpses. Like it was like really haunting that scene. And then Jamie Foxx asked him like, "What's over there?" And he's like, "You don't want to know."
Hmm.
And he just like leaves. And it's like again, there's that denying your emotions, not talking about it,
Yeah,
like that
doing
you
your
see.
best to not see yourself in these other people,
Yeah.
even though, like he says, in the end, we're all the same person. We are all
Mhm.
jarheads. I'm them and they're me.
Yeah, and then I do want to shout out some of the other cast too, because this is in the great tradition of army movies
Yeah,
just having an
there's some
insanely
sneak
stacked
people in
cast.
there. It's
John
true.
Krasinski,
I was gonna
John
say, you see JK? Yep.
John Krasinski, who is writing letters,
Yes.
even though what he say went to Dartmouth or whatever.
Yeah,
He's like
yeah.
went
For
to
for
Dartmouth,
English or something. Hmm.
and I'm writing corny love letters, like sex letters. Dennis Haybert from Major League.
Hell yeah. Hmm.
And then Chris Cooper, he has one of those like just comes in for 5 minutes.
Yep.
That speech that he gives them is so good. Or he has the little microphone backpack.
Yep. He's exactly that guy. He's exactly
Yeah.
that guy. Yep.
And American Beauty, that's what I was thinking of. I was like, oh yeah, Sam Mendes did that too. So I was
Yeah.
made
Boom.
that connection. But yeah, Chris Cooper scene, and then when he's like, every time they say something, he's like, "Are you guys alive in here? I didn't hear you.
Yes. Yes.
My dick just got hard."
He also strangely is like, "Is this a funeral home or is
Yeah, is this a
this something?" And I was like, "Bro, it is a
It
funeral home.
is.
Like, it
It
really
is.
is." And yes, and then he's like, "I just felt my dick get
Yeah.
hard." Like, these dudes are horny for war
Oh my
for
god,
real,
there's so much like homoeroticism in here, but
as
it's
there
like
always has been.
yeah, because like they're just alone in the desert with like all these horned up feelings, like so
Mhm.
gotta live it
Yeah,
out
doing
somehow.
nothing. Oh, for
And then the
reals.
last one, this one was the most surprising to me because I didn't know this guy had been acting this long. But Laz Alonso from The Boys, he's in The Boys
Oh,
TV show.
snap.
He's the I think they just call him Escobar. He's like the Spanish guy, like
He's the dude who's having the baby, right?
the other one. He's
My
like the
bad.
buffer one.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, the dude from Miracle at Santa Ana, right?
I haven't seen that. I don't
No?
know.
Shit, it's another
Maybe
war movie, I might be wrong.
the other guy you're thinking of with the baby. I know him from Next Friday. That's where
Dude,
I
I
know
love
him
that
from.
dude. Yeah, I love that dude.
But yeah, I mean, great
Oh,
cast.
when he's, stocking sodas at the end, just at, like, a grocery store,
Oh yeah,
holy shit,
yeah.
what an image to be like, "Yeah, that's right, like, no one is gonna look at you and just know this about you except for your other dudes who, like, remember."
Well, then like when they go to that guy's funeral, and it's like, oh, this guy,
Sarsgaard
yeah, Sarsgaard
had nothing else going for him.
didn't make it out, and it's like, you see him knock on the door, the nerdy kid, and you're like, oh, like this isn't a happy reunion, like something happened, and then yeah, and then Jake takes it especially hard because like that was his partner, like every
Yeah, his sight
sniper,
man.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
every
right.
sniper has a sight guy, and it's like so like you said, no one knows that relationship. Um, it was that powerful except for them, and it's like there's that added, but they didn't shoot anything either. So it's like it's
Exactly. Yeah, they never really got to neither of them truly got to achieve what they both believed was their potential, because Sarsgaard's character, had to lie about who he was in order to come here, and in a way, he was clearly there for redemption, and neither of them really got to go there and get what they were hoping to find in themselves there.
yeah, and he was like so for the cause for so much of the movie, and then you just see him like that just slowly fade away as it continues.
As
Which
like, how
yeah,
could it not,
I
right?
know. Yeah. Oh man, did you see All Quiet on the Western Front? That was the last
I
war
haven't
movie I
yet.
saw before
I
this.
I
It's
haven't
good.
yet.
I recommend it. I out of like the best picture nominees, that was like I feel like one of the better ones for sure. I was
Nice. All
yeah.
right. I will check
Um
it out. I know it's like
Also
3
very
hours long.
depressing, also
Yeah.
kind of long, but the action is like fucking brutal. Like
Ooh.
I know 1917 is like the same war, has some of the same stuff, but like yeah, I think like, to Sam Mendes to bring it back around, that POV stuff, you really don't get like a sense of like being trapped and stuff.
Yep.
In All Quiet on the Western Front, like you're in the holes with them, like
Yeah.
and like it's scary. It's scary shit. Like I don't know. I haven't seen it like that viscerally done in a World War I movie. I don't like
I mean, the
in a
color
long
looked
time.
amazing in the images I saw. I just those run times, they proved to
Yeah.
be a hard barrier to entry for me.
Yeah, it's a little long. I think the only stuff that I didn't care for was the democracy, like the diplomacy scenes. I was like, just cut it. We're in the army, bro. We're in the
Yeah.
militaries. Like, just stick with those characters. We don't need to see the behind the scenes. I get it.
Stuff.
They're trying to, make a point, a larger point about the war, but yeah, those were the scenes that to me kind of dragged. But like other than that, it's a solid like 2 hours of like
All right.
action and war. Like if you're I mean Jarhead, obviously that's but Jarhead for some reason is underrated. I don't know. It's
It
it's
is
got a weird
underrated.
it's got a weird reputation, and they made like some sequels which I haven't seen. But I mean, how do you make a sequel to this movie? I don't understand. It's
That's
not
what
an
I was
action.
wondering.
Not an action movie. It's really not. It's like an anti-war film and all in the the
Yeah.
broadest definition. Like,
It really
um,
is. Yeah, I think this one is definitely, I think, succeeds. I don't know
yeah.
any person who's like, "Oh yeah, I joined up because of Jarhead." Like I definitely
Oh
have
yeah.
not heard a person say that. I haven't known a lot of people that have joined the military, but I haven't heard anyone say that. But for reals, Laz Alonso is in Miracle at Santa Ana. It's a Spike Lee movie, so
Okay.
you got to peep
Yeah.
it.
I I
It's so
I
damn good.
I'm aware of it, but yeah, that's one of them. I just haven't
Oh
gotten
man,
to it.
it's
But
good.
yeah, Laz Alonso, shout out to him. He's killing it on The Boys. Mother's Milk, that's his character in The Boys.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go. Yeah, I mean, like, all the actors are good in this, and I think that's part of it too,
he
is
has a
that
really small role. Like I don't blame you for not catching it, but I it was so weird because he has a beard now, and he's like does and this was
no,
like
yeah, he didn't have that back
contrasting
then.
it to the Covenant. Nobody has beards in this movie. They're all for like so. I'm looking at him. I'm like, is that no? I was like, that's not him. And then like he started talking in Spanish and like and speaking. And I was like, that is him. That is like,
Yep.
and he has the right build. He's very tall, very muscular, like still.
Yeah, he's
So
badass. He's very badass in it.
and then yeah, just the last thing I wanted to point out too was just like several scenes like we talked about, like just the animalistic side like coming out. Like that scene
Yes.
when they're watching Apocalypse Now, which could have been super cringy, like whenever movies do that, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like watching, especially my whole thing is it's like don't watch a movie that's like better than yours in your movie because it's like then you're just like, well, I should just be watching that.
Yeah,
Like
be careful. Be careful out there.
but the way they used it in here was I thought was really smart, where it's just like, they're watching that battle scene and they're almost like getting a like secondhand high from it, like yeah, fucking kill
Yeah,
him, like and
get
just
those guys. Yeah.
yeah, and
Mhm.
like I'm like yeah, I don't. Again, not
That
the point of that movie, but
very
like they're
intense.
so bored that this is like all the action they're getting is through this movie, through
I mean,
entertainment.
and it's the direct disillusionment that they're there for, right? Like that
Yeah.
movie is why those guys are there basically, because that's what they think it's going to be. And the military is happy to keep them thinking that until they get into the full suck when the military doesn't really give a shit what they think anymore because they're not they're just a number now.
And I did so this is just coming into one last thing. Sorry.
No worries.
But I asked my buddy, he's the one that lives in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Marine too. So I asked him, I was like,
Nice.
hey, we're doing this like on the show. You know, what say you? Like, is this like accurate? You know what I mean? Like, and he said probably different generation of Marines though, which is
Right.
true. This is Desert Storm. He was
Yep.
like, this was like in the last 10 years. He was,
In the military. Okay.
yeah. He said, luckily I didn't see combat. Also true in this movie though. He said, but I had roommates with PTSD, and that's
Wow.
no joke. So
No.
yeah.
Nope.
So
Yeah, I mean, we talk about action movies and we like a lot of fighting, we like a lot of like fun action, but I think a war movie is an important kind of action movie too, because we also love movies that have a little something more underneath all the action.
yeah,
And so this was a fun these were
interesting
interesting movies to
experiment.
compare. Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I it's been a while. Like I feel like they used to make war movies so much, and like
Yes.
nowadays it's like almost like I think people are aware of that. Like we don't want to glorify, and
Yeah.
so it's like we don't see it as much. But yeah, I would say last couple of years, 1917,
Mhm.
and All Quiet are like the two
Yeah, like
like
The
last
Five
ones I
Bloods
can
I
think
liked a
of.
lot.
Oh yeah, I guess that is
That
a
was
war movie
fucking so
too.
good. And
That
that
was
that
really good.
one, yeah, that's like the closest one in recent history, but it's not of Desert Storm. Desert Storm's like a hard war to have a
Hacksaw
war
Ridge
movie
was
about.
okay. That was
Well,
it
it's all
wasn't
right.
great, but
But
you
it's
know,
true. We usually had like one a year that was like hella prestigious. And I feel like,
especially during like after Vietnam, they were pumping them out like
yes,
crazy. Like there's so many, like even like not like Good Morning Vietnam, which is a great movie,
but
but it's
still,
like that's a Vietnam movie.
yes,
We're
yes,
still making movies about Vietnam around the
we
Vietnam
truly are.
War. Dead
Yeah.
Presidents is another one that's like, it's
Yes.
not a Vietnam War movie, but so much of it is around that. So it's yeah,
Yep. So the war movie, it takes up a big leg of the action umbrella. And so yeah, it was good to talk about this one.
yeah, I agree.
Anything else before we get out of here?
That's all I got. I mean, do you wanna set preview what's gonna be our next movie? I'm excited about this next one
Yes,
too.
please share it with the folks.
Blood In, Blood Out. It's the 30th anniversary. Yeah, it came out in 93.
Let's go.
It's gonna be a first time watch for me, which I know is crazy. As a Mexican, I do feel like you can call me
Totally
out on
okay.
that for that, but I've always wanted to see it. In my defense, it is very hard to track down.
Yeah.
It's not there's two different titles for it, and I just never got around to like finding it, but it's on YouTube. All you gotta do is type in Blood In, Blood Out. There's a
Mm-hmm.
really like as good as you're gonna get on YouTube 4K
Let's go.
copy of it. And so if you want to watch before next time, which wasn't next week, it's gonna be in 2 weeks,
May
right?
10th. Wednesday, May
May 10th.
10th, we'll be back.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have plenty of time to watch it, go on YouTube and check it out.
Let's
We'll be back.
go. Yes, I too missed it. Was not did
Yeah.
not know about it. So I'm really excited for us to both watch a movie neither of us have ever
First time.
sdon't
This is rare. Yeah, this is rare.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It's rare
Yeah.
territory.
This is gonna be fun.
Oh
All
yeah.
right, cool. That does it for us. Why don't you remind the people where they can find you?
Yeah, follow the show at Action Movie Buffs on Instagram and Facebook, so you don't miss action ever. We got that covered for you. Twitter at rampage_misfit, and then my movie pages at misfit_minded on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, all that good stuff.
All the good
What about you?
places. Same. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, all the good places at Shanny B Movies. Make sure to also subscribe to the podcast, available on Spotify and Apple. And if you like the show, leave a positive review. I
Oh
hear
yeah,
people say that on their podcast. So
yeah.
please do it for us too.
Why not? Why not? 5 stars, 5 stars. Come on, guys.
Yes, yes. So take a second, please. Awesome. All right. Thanks for listening. Hope to catch you next time on another edition of Movie Buffs.
Yeah. Hoorah!
Oh.